Hello everyone, this is Restart, and today I'm going to be telling you what I honestly think of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I watched it this morning and I certainly have some thoughts here, so I'll be providing to you my review. Now, for those who are watching this to get an understanding if they think the movie will be worth it for them, I will keep the first few minutes of this video non-spoilery, so if you don't want to be spoiled, it's okay, you can watch through the first few minutes of this video without being spoiled. However, I will get to a point in the video where there will be spoilers. I'll provide ample warning, but just keep that in mind. Once I get to that point, I'm going to tell you what I think of specific moments, specific characters, how they interact with each other, and also the implications of this movie for what's to come beyond, because that's an interesting conversation as well. Now, before diving into things, I'll just remind you all I have this goal, so if you find yourself enjoying this video or some of my other videos, I would very much appreciate your subscription. But now on to what I actually think of this movie here. What I think of this movie after having seen it for the first time is that it's pretty much what I expected it to be. If you liked the first Mario movie that came out 3 years ago, then you're going to like this one. It's a fun, action-packed, super fast-paced roller coaster of an experience. There's going to be cameos and references littered all throughout. It's going at a breakneck speed. Sometimes you may even feel like it might be a little bit hard to keep up. But there's going to be so many cool moments that as a fan, you're going to be like, oh, look at that. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that reminds me of this and that and that. And so there is a lot of that all throughout the movie. I've seen some people talk about how this doesn't feel like a Mario Galaxy movie. I don't really agree with that statement at all. I think there's actually a lot of things here that are certainly referencing Galaxy. Someone who has played through Galaxy 1 and 2 multiple times, there's so much in this movie that remind me of those games. Now, it's not just Galaxy 1 and 2. There are plenty of other games that are referenced all throughout the movie. So if you're a longtime Mario fan, you're going to certainly feel that 40th anniversary celebration. It's definitely there. There's a lot of cool references to different games. But what makes the Mario Galaxy movie different from its predecessor is that it not only references and addresses the Mario universe, but beyond that. And to be clear, the first Mario movie had some very subtle references to other Nintendo universes, but this time they happen in a bigger way. And it's already been confirmed that Starfox, as in Fox McCloud from the Star Fox series, has an appearance in this movie, and it's more than just an appearance. He's one of the primary characters of this story. But there are other characters that come up here and there from other Nintendo series as well. I'm not going to spoil them at this point, but yes, there are. And so each time these different characters from these different Nintendo series came up, I was very excited to see them. So I loved all of that. But specifically on the Star Fox stuff, some people have talked about how Fox McCloud, played by Glenn Powell, steals the show. I don't know if I agree with that. I actually personally felt like we didn't get enough. I wanted more. But what I will say is that I liked his presence. I liked seeing this character. I liked seeing this depiction. And I thought it was a very cool inclusion. But as for the overall delivery of the movie in terms of the story and all that stuff, I definitely found myself chuckling several times throughout the movie. There were moments, some character moments, where I actually felt a little stirred up emotionally, which also happened in the first Mario movie, which I did appreciate. There is some lore building here, some interesting backgrounds for different characters that were not necessarily expected. Others, yes. So this movie actually brings in some very interesting new characterizations for some of the major Mario characters, which I really liked. At the same time though, if you look at the critical response for this movie, there is something to what is being said, similar to the first Mario movie. This is very fast-paced, they do not linger. There's definitely not enough characterization, there's definitely not enough of those really big, impactful character moments to the point where you could classify this movie as a critical darling. Like, it's definitely not that. But it was never intended to be. Would I personally prefer it if the movie was 20 to 30 minutes longer and that extra 20 to 30 minutes was just more moments with these characters, fleshing them out a little bit more? Absolutely. I think the movie would be better if it was slower paced from that perspective, but I also understand they're making this a faster paced movie because they're trying to appeal to a very large audience, and While the first Mario movie was an absolute stellar hit, this one, I imagine, in a similar fashion, will also be a stellar hit. So it kind of is what it is. It's definitely something that I think could be better, but the kind of movie I want it to be is a movie that Nintendo and Illumination were never intending to make with these Mario movies. Still though, if you like the first Mario movie, if you are a Nintendo fan that's played various Mario games or even just other Nintendo games, you're going to see a lot of cool references. There are still some fun, powerful character moments. There's some cool world building. The visuals are incredible. It's an absolute visual treat. The music this time I actually think I liked maybe a little bit better than the first movie because it was more focused on Mario Universe stuff and a little bit of Star Fox too, which I really liked as a Nintendo fan. So I think this movie, as many people have been saying, is great for Nintendo fans. It's great for the family. And that's what you're getting here. If you're expecting something else, something deeper, something crazy, something that's going to change your life or your worldview, this isn't that. And it never was going to be. But now on to the spoilers. So, here's your warning. I'm now going to start spoiling things that happen in the movie, giving you my take on that, and also some pretty crazy implications, I would say. So, again, here's your warning. Please click off if you don't want to be spoiled. Maybe come back after you've seen the movie and watch through here and then give me your take. But yes, final warning. Now we're getting into the spoilers. Something I wish they did a little bit more of was give us a little bit more time between Princess Peach and Princess Rosalina. As theorized, Princess Peach and Princess Rosalina are sisters, which is really cool. I'm happy that most of my theories with this Mario movie have come to fruition. The only theory that I put out there about this movie that was incorrect is that the whole scarf Captain Toad thing is just a coincidence, and they make no mention of that in regards to Star Fox's character. But everything else is panned out. But in terms of Rosalina, I thought she was great. I actually thought all the voices in the movie were good to great. For Star Fox, I feel like I wanted to get more time with the character just to get a better understanding of the personality, but I already talked about that earlier. What I wish they would have done, though, is given us a little bit more time with Peach and Rosalina. I really felt like once they reunited at the end, things ended very quickly. It was very abrupt. I wanted a little bit more time. Like, I think Brie Larson does a great job with the voice of Rosalina. I think she's depicted really well. I just wanted more with her, at least one more scene where we could see some bonding between Peach and Rosalina. So I do hope that this Mario Galaxy movie isn't the end of seeing these characters together. I want to see more. Something that I thought was very cool about this movie is that there was definitely a lot of cool moments between Mario and Yoshi and Luigi. And so we got to see this party interact with each other throughout the adventure, which was nice. Perhaps this is somewhat of an equivalent here, because in the first Mario movie, while it is the Mario Brothers movie, Luigi is the person that is saved, and you don't really see too much of him throughout the middle. You see him in the beginning, you see him at the end. The way Luigi was treated is very similar to how Rosalina is treated. I would actually even argue Rosalina is treated a little bit less, because at least Luigi was involved with the final big fight. Rosalina, not so much. That all said, I still found the sibling connection element between Peach and Rosalina to be captivating. That was something that helped me like the movie more. The emotion behind that, Peach wanting to find where she comes from, her finding out, that was a cute thing. And so I appreciate that it was there, but of course, yeah, I would have liked to have seen more. Something that surprised me though was how Bowser was depicted. I did not expect Bowser to be treated kind of like a good guy for a little bit. He kind of wavers throughout the movie, which was certainly a surprise, and I wasn't sure how I really felt about it. Like, I thought maybe he was just putting on an act, but then he wasn't putting on an act, which, you know, was a nice twist, but then I was like, okay, I didn't expect him to actually be a really nice dude, but also, he's Bowser, why is he being a really nice dude? Ultimately, he chooses to not be that very nice dude. However, there is something very real that's depicted about his emotions and his character. This love for his child, Bowser Jr. That connection between the two, there's something there that I also found to be captivating. And so in the final fight, Bowser has all his skin melted off and he becomes a dry Bowser, which I found to be totally gruesome. but also very cool, but also surprising that they would do that to Bowser, and they kept him that way. I'm sure eventually they'll find a way to change him back, I guess, maybe? But that was a really crazy choice they did with that, just to showcase Dry Bowser. But then also, when things go awry and Baby Bowser gets eaten by the dragon from Mario Odyssey, which was a really cool reference, Mario using that epic final Mario Galaxy power-up to take down the dragon and save Baby Bowser, in part because he saw how Bowser was pained by the loss of his son, and he knew from the interactions they had earlier in the movie that there was a connection there. That was a cool moment. And so there is some interesting characterization of Bowser and Rosalina and Princess Peach that I found really cool. I loved seeing the brothers together. There's even the whole romance between Mario and Peach, which they were definitely pushing throughout the movie. They were consistent with it, and we did get a little bit of a payoff at the end with the kiss. It wasn't a kiss on the lips, but it was certainly an affectionate kiss, and that I think was more than good enough for this movie. It's something I really appreciated. That was wonderful, even though I do feel like they probably could have lingered a little bit more because the ending did feel abrupt. Now, while I do say the ending felt abrupt, they do give us 2 post-credit scenes, which I think you could maybe argue changes that perspective a little bit. One of those post-credit scenes is with Fox McCloud, and it does show Bowser and Bowser Jr. in jail, and I thought the way that was depicted was kind of cool, although them being terrified for their life by this cute Luma who speaks in a very dark, morose way, it felt a little bit pushed, to me personally. But just seeing Fox McCloud one final time, him flying off, getting back to his universe, that definitely feels like, yeah, they're teasing a future of Star Fox here. We've heard about the game that's going to be announced relatively soon. Fingers crossed it truly does get announced this month. I am so excited for this. It really did feel like they just used this movie as a massive commercial for the Star Fox series. Like, they even had a whole explanation, introduction of the entire Star Fox universe, the characters. So yeah, technically Peppy and Falco and Slippy show up, although they're just kind of shown in like these illustrations. They weren't actually in the main story of the movie, but still they were mentioned and shown off there. And I guess they did this because they wanted to tell people about Star Fox and make them aware for the game, and presumably in the future also a Star Fox movie. So it does seem like, as we were suspecting, Star Fox kind of took the role of Donkey Kong here, how Nintendo spent years building up the Donkey Kong brand. They had the redesign, put him in the movie, they had the park, the Donkey Kong Country remaster, and then the big new 3D Donkey Kong Bonanza. It feels like Nintendo also wants to work on the cross promotion for Star Fox here. They have this big introductory moment in the movie, but it doesn't seem like this is the end for Star Fox in the cinematic universe, and also it gives me more confidence that there are going to be some big Star Fox games coming down the road, at least one that we've heard about that's coming really soon, perhaps more. If the idea is to bring back the brand, then the brand's going to be around for more than just one game, right? You would think. Especially if they're going to be working on a Star Fox movie, they probably would want another game to come out a few years from now that's in close proximity to that movie. But as I said earlier, it's not just Star Foxes in this movie. Pikmin were confirmed, their moment was brief but cute. Rob actually has a few pretty cool, funny scenes, so that was nice to see. But also in the final fight, seemingly out of nowhere, Mr. Game & Watch shows up. Mr. Game & Watch, which most may know from Smash Bros., but is also a character from the Game & Watch systems. So I was actually very surprised to see him there, but by this point, once we saw Game & Watch, I was like, oh, yeah, this feels like Smash Brothers. Like, bringing in Game & Watch, Pikmin, Rob. Rob doesn't even have his own game series, so bringing in Rob, who is in Smash Brothers, definitely felt like they're kind of pushing the Smash thing, when you also account for there being Fox McCloud from Star Fox, and then obviously everyone from the Mario universe, the expanded Mario universe. They made sure to show so many different characters. I didn't mention Wart or Birdo, but they were there. Wart actually had a pretty good scene. I really liked his inclusion there. Very good job done by Luis Guzman as well for the character. But there was another post-credit scene after the one with Fox and the ending of the jail with Bowser and Bowser Jr. One more scene where the monkey gets punched by who? By Daisy. Daisy made it into the movie. which further expands the Mario universe, who is another character in the Smash Bros. Games as well, but Daisy is part of the Mario universe, and it does have me wondering that this character is introduced to give Luigi a love interest in the future. Now, if you want me to give you my theory on what the next Mario movie is going to be, I'm actually leaning in the direction of it being a Luigi's Mansion movie. Maybe that's its own separate thing and there's still going to be just a Super Mario movie of some kind. That's possible. But you know, the brush of Bowser Jr. caused quite a bit of destruction and mayhem throughout the movie, was a source of great issues. And from Mario Sunshine, we have an idea that the brush was actually made by Professor Egad, who is an important character in the Luigi's Mansion series. And also we know Luigi's looking for his own love interest and Daisy has been introduced here. So if we have a game where Luigi becomes a little bit more of the star of the show, Luigi's Mansion, that still incorporates all the other characters into the world, but has Professor Egad introduced as well and Daisy as well, I think it could fit. Now we'll see what they're actually planning eventually, but that's kind of my idea for now. Something else that I think is worth noting, Donkey Kong is in the movie, by the way. It's very brief, but when we see the montage of Yoshi's beginnings, we do see Donkey Kong very briefly having a good time with the girders, which is a cool reference to the OG Donkey Kong, but it also tells us that Donkey Kong is still totally fine in the Mario universe, just not in the Donkey Kong country right now. I do anticipate there will be an actual Donkey Kong movie. He had no lines there, he was just in the background. But I come away from this movie just thinking that they're going to continue to expand this Nintendo cinematic universe here. They are setting so many different things up. We've already heard about the Donkey Kong motion picture. That's been an official copyright filing by Nintendo and Universal, so that's in the works. With this Daisy introduction, it definitely feels like they're setting things up for more, and I do hope in that movie we see more characterization of Rosalina. I want to see more of her and interacting with the cast. I'm very curious on what they're going to do with Bowser Jr. and Dry Bowser now. Maybe that is a way to incorporate King Boo, given that Bowser's kind of undead. So yeah, maybe there is something to this Luigi's Mansion theory the more and more I think about it. But perhaps that's on the way. They set up the Star Fox series to have its own movie series as well. And then with all these different Nintendo Universe characters here, with the strong emphasis on so many, they are definitely opening things up significantly here, which does set things up for a Nintendo Cinematic Universe. One last thing I'll talk about here is that we do have this moment when Mario and Fox and Cloud meet and they kind of look at each other and they each just kind of make a brief mention of something they think that's cool about each other, which was a nice thing to see them interact with each other, these two goats, these two amazing characters from their respective series. But that was really kind of it. I think what maybe my biggest issue with Fox in the movie is that there wasn't really much struggle for him. Like, he joined the cast and he helped out, but there wasn't a character arc there. He was just trying to get back to his universe, which is something, but he just kind of helps the party, and then at the end they're like, oh, yep, Rosalina helped me out, so now I can go back home. That's pretty much it. However, seeing that connection between Mario and Fox when they first meet there, that to me definitely has me thinking there's something to that. And I think that something is going to tie into the eventual big Smash Bros. Movie when that does come, which I definitely believe is absolutely in the works, is absolutely happening. Clearly Nintendo's expanding here. I'm not saying it's happening soon because you're going to have all these other different movies come out and do their thing, like Star Fox and Donkey Kong. We have the live-action Zelda movie next year. But eventually, as they expand this cinematic universe, the time will come to have that Smash Brothers movie. And I'll also say this, I know I said it was going to be my last thing, but I think it ties into it. We never learn who the evil forces are that are coming for Rosalina and Peach, which lead to a separation when they're young. That's probably not Bowser. Almost certainly not. What is that? Maybe it's just meant to be ambiguous forever, but I do wonder if maybe that becomes a plot point for the future, if not for specifically the Super Mario Bros. Movies, but for maybe the Smash Cinematic Universe. It's certainly possible, especially when we account for the fact that maybe Bowser and Bowser Jr. kind of waver between good and evil here, so they're not necessarily the best final villain. They may need to introduce another force, another antagonistic force later down the road. But those are my thoughts on the Super Mario Galaxy movie. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.